Y'all, it's been a hell of a news day. My God, it has been historic and extraordinary. Sadly, none of the accountability that is raining down around the world is coming to the United States. Nonetheless, I do think that the reverberations as to what went down today in the UK and in South Korea will resonate inside of these United States. There is a lot to get through today. I'm already tired. Welcome to Thursday and the Danielle Moody Show, dear friends. Buckle up. Buckle up. Get your support plants, pets, cocktails, mocktails, because it's going to be a doozy. Let's go. I have never wanted to be a citizen of another country more than today. And it's a tie, really, between the UK and South Korea that wanted to show the world that we can hold power to account, that we're actually not afraid to hold power to account. That here's a crazy idea that if you want to preserve quote unquote institutions, then you actually have to use those institutions for the benefit of law and order, not just preserve it in name only and do nothing and think that that in and of itself is doing your job. Looking at you, Merrick Garland and Joe Biden, because I got to tell you that when I woke up to the news, as all of you did today, that former Prince Andrew was arrested under the suspicion of misconduct in public office, all coming to a head because of, let us just say her name, because of the relentless pursuit of justice of Virginia Giuffre, who tragically is no longer with us, but whose belief in a justice system and holding power to account is the only reason that today happened. Now, while the former prince was released after 11 hours, the damage that this is doing inside of Britain, the damage that it is doing, and the questions that it is calling into account about the monarchy, um, is like centuries in the making. I will say this, I turned on the BBC today. And I turned on the BBC because I was like, yo, what must the news coverage be like happening? And of course, it was wall to wall coverage with royal experts coming on and talking, some saying that this will have no effect on the monarchy, that this was Prince Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew, acting alone. Others saying that no, this is going to call into question whether or not we need a monarchy moving forward, whether or not the taxpayers' dollars should be going to this. And I had a question, and I'm not a lawyer, but my question is that, it was uncovered that King Charles, his mother, his late mother, his late father, all chipped in to try and pay Virginia Giuffre off. They chipped in like 14 million pounds to try and pay her off. And I'm thinking to myself, because this is now public knowledge, was that their money? Was it the taxpayers' money? And were they trying to pay her off because obviously they knew that he was guilty and they wanted, right, to keep her quiet and to keep the firm intact? And doesn't that make them an accomplice to his crimes? Again, I'm not a lawyer. These are just questions that I'm asking. Because the fact is, I got to tell you, I mean, we started to smell the stink coming out of the monarchy, coming out of this royal family several years ago when Meghan, right, Duchess Meghan pulled up the red alert flags and said, something's not right here. Something's not right about the way that I'm consistently being fed to the press like chum for sharks as a way to distract from what is happening inside of this family. Because now, when you take all of these things into account, and I know that people are like, what is she, because for whatever reason, people hate uh uh the Duchess, right? They absolutely hate her. And I believe that they hate her because she is a biracial woman who had the audacity to marry a white prince and buck the ideas of this monarchy and to suffer in silence, right? And so when you think about what she was going through during the timeline that they were in the UK, and you also think about the timeline of the accusations beginning to bubble up about Prince Mountbatten Windsor, all of it seems really fucking suspicious. And like, again, they fed her to the wolves to distract the press from what they should have been digging up around former Prince Andrew. And so here it all comes to a head. The former Prince Andrew has been released after his arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The Thames Valley Police Force said the former prince was released Thursday evening. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was photographed in a car leaving the station near his home in eastern England about 11 hours after his arrest. He was released under investigation, meaning he has neither been charged nor exonerated. Mountbatten Windsor was arrested early Thursday at his home by detectives investigating his ties to the late Jeffrey Epstein. Police said that they had finished searching Mountbatten Windsor's home, but were still searching another property. Goes on to say this. This is breaking news update. The former Prince Andrew was arrested by British police Thursday on suspicion of misconduct in public office related to his links to Jeffrey Epstein, an extraordinary move in a country. And I wanted to read this in particular. An extraordinary move in a country where authorities once sought to shield the royal family from embarrassment, meaning that they would do anything in order to spare the royal family from embarrassment. This is a major turning point. And is it because of the newly released documents and the photographs of Andrew on all fours over a child? Is it because they just couldn't bear to turn away any longer from his depravity? And that the accusations that Virginia Giuffre had made throughout the last several years before her untimely death, that they finally couldn't silence it anymore, that it had gotten to a fever pitch. And so, I think that, in all honesty, so much is up for grabs now, meaning that nothing is out of the realm of possibility when you go down this road to arrest a member of the royal family. Everything now comes into question about who knew what when, and if they bring charges against him, will he stand trial? Will he sing like a canary? And who else could potentially be implicated? Does the king stand by and allow his brother to stand trial? Or is he like, give them whatever it is that they want because we want this out of the press as soon as possible? But I got to tell you, I don't know, y'all. I think that Pandora's box has been ripped open. I think that the year of the fire horse is off to a fucking startling start. And that we have to, in this country, believe in the possibility of accountability for what we are currently living under. Because Virginia died not knowing whether or not the man that she had been sold to would ever face justice. And today, I'm not saying that it's full accountability, but the fact that a member of the royal family, the former prince, was arrested today and questioned for 11 hours and has not been exonerated, and there is more to come, is extraordinary. This is what courage looks like on the part of these victims that are standing up, standing tall, telling their story day after day, month after month, year after year until the dam breaks. So this is what the king said today with regard to the arrest of his brother. Charles said there must be a quote, full, fair, and proper investigation into Mountbatten Windsor, who has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office in relationship to his friendship with the late convicted sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein. Let me state clearly, he said in the statement, the law must take its course, Charles said, adding that the investigation would have, quote, our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Meanwhile, he added, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. Charles R. So, this is something that we will continue, obviously, to watch. Like I said, it was extraordinary to watch a bit of the BBC News coverage today because you could see like the shock, the absolute shock and stun of the faces of the reporters and the analysts being brought on, that never in their lifetime would they have expected something like this to transpire. Now, folks have known, right? He was stripped of his title. He was divorced from his wife. Like, they have known that Andrew is no fucking good and hasn't been. But the idea that now this dirty laundry has been laid out in the public, I think it calls into question a lot. And it calls into question as to what is the need for royalty in the 21st century. At a time when we are really unpacking colonization, at a time when people are really becoming conscious of the fact that the royal family for centuries has existed off of the wealth that they have stolen and extracted from their colonies. Like, what are we doing here by continuing to celebrate and lift up this family that is royal by virtue of their blood? And yet no conversations about all the bloodshed that it took for them to wear those jewels. I think that everything truly is up for grabs in this moment. And so as this is happening in the UK, I want to bring up again a clip that I showed you all last week when Ted Lieu, Representative Ted Lieu, who is a lawyer, by the way, gave a press conference that was aired on C-SPAN where he told us, the American people, about what he had seen in the unredacted files that representatives were now privy to. And for some reason, no legacy press made it a headline. As a matter of fact, when I was looking for it today again, because it's going all around on social media and now it's viral for whatever reason, but when I was looking for it, it's like one article in Yahoo that said that Representative Ted Lieu makes wild claims about Donald Trump. Wild claims? And no other major news outlet had touched it. So while they're arresting royalty in the UK, you would have to go ahead and dig around to see whether or not there would be any kind of coverage of this. So there are some days where I'm just like, social media, not worth a damn, has destroyed the world. And then there are other days when you get comments like this trending in all of the right ways.
So why are Republicans so interested in Bill and Hillary Clinton? It's because they're trying to distract from the fact that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files thousands and thousands of times. In those files, there's highly disturbing allegations of Donald Trump raping children, of Donald Trump threatening to kill children. So I encourage the press to go look at these allegations. And I'm highly disturbed that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche just got the law wrong. Yesterday, he said, essentially, that it is not a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein. Well, that's actually not correct. If Jeffrey Epstein was human trafficking minors for these sex parties, and you show up and patronize the establishment at that party, yes, you're guilty, because patronizing is part of the law, of the federal sex trafficking law. So Deputy General Todd Blanche just got that wrong, which maybe explains why they aren't investigating all these folks, including Donald Trump. He needs to read the law and investigate these people. He also needs to resign, not only for not knowing the law, but a massive, not only screw up, but the biggest privacy violation in history. They release a lot of pictures of minors unredacted, just violated the privacy of these girls. It is uncalled for what they did. The one thing that they could not do under this law was to invade the privacy of these women now, who were girls at the time, who were victims of sex trafficking. Also, he met with Ghislaine Maxwell, moved her to minimum security prison, and then got a puppy for her. So for all those reasons, he's just got to leave the Department of Justice.
For all those reasons, he got to leave the Department of Justice. For all those reasons, he should be investigated his goddamn self. This was 2 weeks ago. And for whatever reason, it is making the rounds now, but I played it following Todd Blanche's appearance on the Sunday talk shows, where Representative Ted Lieu was referencing Todd Blanche saying that it wasn't a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein. And that was his rebuttal to that bullshit statement. It's not a crime? Does that not make you an accomplice? And here's the thing, because I said this earlier today in an interview that I did with my friend Kurt Bardella over on Substack. And Kurt is a former Republican turned Democrat like 10 years ago. He used to be on the oversight committee for Republicans when Republicans lost the majority. And what he said to me was, when you look at all that is happening, right? Like, Democrats don't have quote unquote power right now, but what they do have the power to do is to gum up the works. What they do have the power to do is exactly what Representative Ted Lieu is doing. You go directly to the press with what you know, with what you're hearing. You get that shit to go viral. You ask real legitimate questions about why this administration is orchestrating one of the biggest cover-ups in the history of these United States, and potentially the history of like the world right now, just out in the open. It's extraordinary. And here was Jamie Raskin. Again, I played this clip a couple of weeks ago when he saw the unredacted files from the Justice Department. And this was his response.
His name is all over these files, all over it. I mean, thousands and thousands of times. If you spend any real time with these files, you will see references to 17-year-old girls, 16-year-old girls, 14-year-old girls, 11-year-old girls, 10-year-old girls, and I saw a reference today to a 9-year-old girl. So it is a really gruesome and grim story. And I think in order to see our way through this and to try to make progress on criminal investigation and prosecution and some kind of social redemption from this whole nightmare, we need to listen to the survivors.
And what I saw yesterday, and folks, forgive me because I don't have the clip, but maybe I'll play it tomorrow on Democracy-ish. You know Jesse Waters over on Fox, that idiot, bumbling fool over on Fox, and he's on the show The Five, right? With 4 bumbling fools and 1 Democrat that happens to be on there. God bless her, because I don't even know how she deals with those people on a regular basis. Jesse Waters said on national television, "What's the big deal about Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, he was more like a quote, sex rabbi. Some people needed girls and he got them for them. Like, is that really a crime?" I swear to you, when I watched that clip, I wanted to fucking scream. How in God's name have we entered a place where you are sane washing pedophilia on national fucking television? 3 million files showcasing torture and rape and brutality. And Jesse Waters referred to Epstein as a sex rabbi procuring girls and sometimes other things that people needed. Yeah, it's called trafficking, you piece of fucking shit. I honestly, folks, I really, I don't know. I don't know how these people sleep at night. I don't know, like at some point, their brains must be studied because they are clearly so deficient of morality and humanity that like we have to locate the breakdown in their brains as to when this happens so that we can ensure that it doesn't happen to others, that others can't be infected by this type of illogical, depraved thinking. So, mind you, while investigations are being launched everywhere from France to the UK to Switzerland with people that have been mentioned in the Epstein files way less than Donald Trump. Do you know what the fuck he did today at the Department of Justice? What Donald Trump did today? Have you seen it? Oh, just wait. Donald Trump unfurled a large banner of himself outside of the Justice Department headquarters in Washington, D.C., emphasizing the White House's control over the nation's top law enforcement branch that once pursued criminal prosecutions against the president. Giant banner of Donald Trump hung at Justice Department headquarters. That's what happened today. After former Prince Andrew is arrested in the UK. And we'll get to the other stories that broke in South Korea. This is the signal that Donald Trump is sending to Congress, to the Supreme Court, and to the rest of us. He is the law. He isn't just above the law. He is the law. This looks like some shit that you would see in China. Meanwhile, I played you the clip yesterday of Wang Guan of CNTV, who read the United States for filth on Chinese national television, talking about the days of America being able to gallop in on their moral high horse is over, because that's what their inaction around the Epstein files and pedophilia has shown us. We are a fucking joke. Not only are we a joke, we are a cautionary tale as to what can happen in your country if you don't hold power to account. This is despicable. When have you ever seen a sitting president have a banner in their fucking face on our buildings? You have pictures of who is leading the Justice Department and the President of the United States inside of those buildings, not unfurled outside of it like you are in fucking Russia. This is the shit that they did today to troll the United States people, to troll this country. Folks, pay attention. Pay attention. And what else do we need to pay attention to is this. Because while we are talking about these despicable, disgusting, powerful men, let's not forget about the women who not only participated in these actions, but to me are even far worse in their depravity than the men, because they were once girls. Brian Krasenstein posted this. This email was sent by Susan Hamblin, according to Representative Luna, just now. Susan Hamblin is the founder, folks, you cannot make this shit up, of Kids to Families Adoption Agency. He writes that Congress must have her testify under oath immediately, and Kash Patel's FBI must open up an investigation. She wrote this to Jeffrey Epstein, March 11th, 2014. Thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty. She leads an adoption agency for children? This woman is the fucking devil. Do you understand the businesses that these people are in? One of the other things that I heard today was that in an email, Jeffrey Epstein said that he had unfettered access to Disney. Why? The owner of Chuck E. Cheese is in the Epstein files. Like, these people are fucking predators. Like, it. And then on top of that, you know how people have continued to say that, talk about Jeffrey Epstein's connections to Israel? Yeah. The Israeli government installed security equipment and controlled access to a Manhattan apartment at 301 East 66th Street, managed by Jeffrey Epstein and owned by his brother starting in 2016 and continuing at it for at least 2 years. Units in the building were frequently loaned out to Epstein's contacts and used to house underage models. Rafi Shlomo, then director of protective service at the Israeli mission to the United Nations in New York and head of Barak's security, corresponded with Epstein employees to arrange meetings to discuss security and coordinate installation of specialized surveillance equipment at 66th Street residence. Under Israeli law, former prime minister and other high-ranking officials typically receive security services after they leave office. According to the emails, Epstein personally approved the installation of the equipment and authorized meetings between his staff and Israeli security officials. A January 2016 email exchange between Barak's wife, Nili Prel, and an Epstein employee discussed installing alarms and surveillance equipment at the residence, including 6 sensors stick to the windows and the ability to remotely control access to the premises. They can neutralize the system from far before you need somebody to enter the apartment. The only thing to do is call Rafi from the consulate and let him know when you're entering. Somebody tell me why the Israelis would be putting up cameras in Jeffrey Epstein's home. Unless, of course, you are gathering information on those that enter, compiling, let's say, a dossier for blackmail. And here's an email. Jeffrey says he does not mind holes in the walls, and this is all just fine. I don't think it will be a problem to make a call to Rafi before entering. How much advance notice does he need? I will be able to tell Karnia and Tess, as they are the ones that normally go in. There's another one. Rafi, the head of Ehud's security, is asking if I could go meet him at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. 14th at his office and Ehud's apartment. I asked what is it he needs, and he said they just need to meet with the person in charge of the apartment over there about the going in and out of maids. He was not very specific, just said they are doing some reshuffling themselves. Some reshuffling themselves. All of this sitting well with y'all? Because it sure as fuck is not sitting well with me. And then there was this, which happened yesterday. Lawrence O'Donnell quotes the scathing takedown of Trump in the New York Daily News. And I'm going to play you the clip, and then I'm going to read you part of the article. Take a listen.
Daily News, which now calls the Trump administration the most powerful crime syndicate in history, has always had strong reader support in the Queens neighborhood in New York, where Donald Trump grew up. The New York Daily News says, quote, "It is time to acknowledge what has become tragically obvious. The Trump administration is essentially acting as a massive criminal enterprise. It lies, steals, extorts, and murders, all while cloaked in the awesome authority of the state. It is on a crime spree that puts Al Capone to shame. This administration has murdered Renee Good and Alex Preddy, slandered them as domestic terrorists and assassins, and allowed their killers to walk free. Unleashed thousands of minimally trained ICE agents recruited with explicitly white supremacist messaging to inflict terror on people of color. Repeatedly violated the constitutional rights of citizens and non-citizens by arresting them for First Amendment protected speech, raiding their homes without judicial warrants and imprisoning them without due process, and killed dozens of civilians on the high seas solely on the unsubstantiated claim that they were drug runners, not that being drug runners would justify their summary executions without due process anyway. Released hundreds of imprisoned felons who brutally beat Capitol Police officers on January 6th. Converted the once independent Department of Justice into an instrument of personal retribution via the prosecution of cooked-up lawsuits against the president's enemies, threatened to seize the territory of a sovereign nation, a NATO ally no less, and declared that legislators should be executed for reminding military personnel of their duty to disobey illegal orders. It is difficult to comprehend the level of state-sponsored criminality we are witnessing because our country has never experienced anything like it.
I mean, whew, god damn. America, goddamn. This is what we knowingly did. We knew Donald Trump was a criminal. We knew he was a criminal before he ran for fucking office in 2015. We've known he's been a criminal. Why? Because he has been investigated and indicted so many fucking times. I swear to you, I will never forgive this country. I really will not. Because we have not even seen the worst. This motherfucker, not only unfurling banners of himself over the Department of Justice to show the world who has the power, but is also, right, building concentration camps all over the country that can fit 80,000 people. People that he looks at as what? Packages. No bathrooms, no medical aid, no food, no hygiene, and just buying up the properties and making these makeshift facilities. And we're just sitting around thinking, what? Midterms are going to save us? And I want to bring to you the rest of the article that was in the Daily News yesterday that Lawrence didn't get to, which was this. It is difficult to comprehend the level of state-sponsored criminality we are witnessing because our country has never experienced anything like it. It is also difficult to absorb because it is happening so quickly and on so many different fronts. In the words of the 2022 movie, it sometimes feels like everything, everywhere, all at once. And that can be exhausting, numbing, and overwhelming. But viewing the Trump administration as a massive crime syndicate allows us to be clear-eyed about what is coming down the road and to plan accordingly. To take the most urgent example, there ought to be no question as to whether Trump will try to steal the midterm elections. Of course he will try to steal them. Criminals gonna crime. Trump tried to steal the 2020 elections, and the lack of any consequences for that supremely traitorous act only further emboldened him. It is every patriotic American's duty to oppose the coming effort to nullify the will of the voters. That this administration can reasonably be viewed as a criminal enterprise should not be cause for despair. The courts have rejected many of the administration's power grabs and unconstitutional or illegal acts. The president is less popular than he has ever been. Prominent Republicans are defying him more than ever. The brave citizens of Minneapolis are showing us how effective organized resistance can be. And Bad Bunny, with his Super Bowl message that the only thing more powerful than hate is love, gave us reason to believe that kindness, compassion, and decency will prevail. But I wonder, will it? Meta is putting in $65 million to steal this election. Microsoft is putting in hundreds of millions of dollars. Palantir, hundreds of millions of dollars. All of the techno-fascists who work arm in arm with Donald Trump because they need those government contracts. They need our tax dollars to continue to pour into AI that they're building in the hopes to replace us. So is it possible to create a resistance so big, so strong, that it can actually knock down the techno-fascists and this criminal fucking syndicate that is called the Trump administration? I don't know. I want to believe. I want to have hope and faith. I want what we witnessed today in the UK and in South Korea to give us some resolve that the people must stay steadfast and focused on our goal of bringing this crime organization down. But my God, folks, Joe Walsh put it so clearly. It's really something when you think about it, he wrote. We've got serious allegations and potential evidence that the President of the United States is likely a pedophile, that he raped and abused underage girls. We also know that he has single-handedly orchestrated this entire massive government cover-up of the Epstein files, making sure that he and all the other rich and powerful are not exposed and held accountable. And yet, with all of that, no investigation at all. None. It's not being looked into at all. Nothing. So crazy and so wrong. And when Jamie Raskin last week had the opportunity to break down for the American people just how fucking criminal this entire Trump syndicate is, again, something else that should go viral. We have all the goddamn receipts, folks. There is, talk about a smoking gun. The entire country is on fire with as much evidence as we have. And yet, nothing. When asked by Jamie, are you going to investigate anyone? Anyone that's been named? The reaction was, well, it's not a crime to party. It is a crime to fucking rape. And let me just, before I even play this, let me say this to y'all. You all, whether you have kids, don't have kids, have grandkids, don't have grandkids, have been a caregiver, what have you, you know the difference between what a 12-year-old girl looks like versus a 19 and 20-year-old woman. You know the difference between what looks like a prepubescent child and a young adult woman, right? So all these motherfuckers that are coming and saying, I had no idea what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. Jeffrey Epstein was parading these children, his victims, on his arm at Mar-a-Lago, at these fucking pageants that Donald Trump was putting together, at Victoria's Secret fashion shows where Lex Wexner, whose finances he was managing for over a decade. You're telling me that these grown men were looking at these children and saying, oh, yeah, they seem like they're 18, 19, 20? The fuck out of here. Give me a break. Take a listen to Raskin last week.
The People's Department of Justice into Trump's instrument of revenge. Trump orders up prosecutions like pizza, and you deliver every time. He tells you to go after James Comey, Letitia James, Lisa Cook, and Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve Board, and members of Congress like Adam Schiff, Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, Chrissy Houlihan, Jason Crow, Chris Deluzio, and Maggie Goodlander, to name a few, and you snap to it. You replace real prosecutors with counterfeit stooges who robotically do the president's bidding. Nothing in American history comes close to this complete corruption of the justice function and contamination of federal law enforcement. And the good news is many serious lawyers at DOJ, including some of your own original appointees, have refused your lawless orders. Danielle Sassoon, your original pick for acting U.S. Attorney in Manhattan, resigned rather than follow your corrupt order to quash an indictment against Mayor Eric Adams as a political favor from Donald Trump. A Federalist Society member who clerked for Justice Scalia, U.S. Attorney Sassoon refused to participate in this blatantly corrupt scheme. Her top assistant, Hagen Scotton, an Iraqi war vet and two-time Bronze Star recipient who clerked for Chief Justice Roberts, and then Judge Kavanaugh, promptly resigned too, writing to your office, quote, I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me. You and the president nominated Eric Siebert, a 15-year career prosecutor, to be your U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. But after 5 months of investigating Letitia James and James Comey, he found no evidence to justify criminal charges. So you forced him out. You replaced him with Lindsay Halligan, Trump's personal lawyer from the Mar-a-Lago documents case, who had zero prosecutorial experience and no qualifications. And then you were humiliated when a federal judge found that this corrupt appointment was blatantly unlawful and threw out Halligan's indictments entirely. And grand juries of American citizens have repeatedly rejected your vendettas and baseless indictments brought by the hacks left at DOJ now, with 2 different grand juries in Virginia voting down indictments against Letitia James in a single week. And just yesterday, another grand jury shut down your vendetta factory by rejecting indictments against the 6 members of Congress who had spoken out to remind all service members that they have a duty to refuse illegal orders. You tried to get a grand jury to indict 6 members of Congress who are veterans of our armed forces on charges of seditious conspiracy simply for exercising their First Amendment rights. I hope you will heed the wisdom and the constitutional patriotism of those grand jurors and not try it again by doubling down on that humiliation. As your best lawyers are sacked for having participated in the January 6th case, or just flee for the exits now, your new lawyers keep lying in court. In dozens of cases, they've been excoriated for lying to federal judges. Chief Judge Boasberg, right here in D.C., suggested your Department of Justice perpetrated a fraud on the court. Other judges found your statements to be, quote, inexplicably misleading, patently incredible, totally inconsistent, and so disingenuous that the court is left with little confidence that the government can be trusted to tell the truth about anything.
I mean, goddamn. 77 million motherfucking people in this country voted for this man. 77 million. I would love an audience with all of them. Like, what the fuck is broken inside of you? Is racism that goddamn deep that you would sell out every part of the Constitution just to hold on to your whiteness? It truly, I'm telling you, it truly needs to be fucking studied. It really does, because it baffles the mind. 77 million people. This man, do you know what he did today? On top of everything else? Sending 10 billion of our tax dollars to his fraudulent fucking board of peace. It is a money laundering fucking scam with our taxpayer dollars. 77 million people. They voted for it. I swear to God. But in other countries, they actually hold their people accountable. In other countries, they don't just spout off bumper sticker bullshit like nobody is above the law. They actually put action behind their words. And today, South Korea did just that. Former South Korean President Yoon receives life sentence for imposing martial law. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol was sentenced to life imprisonment for his brief imposition of martial law in December 2024. Judge Ji Kyu-yoon said he found Yoon guilty of rebellion for mobilizing military and police forces in an illegal attempt to seize the liberal-led National Assembly, arrest politicians, and establish unchecked power for a considerable time. Yoon is likely to appeal the verdict. A special prosecutor had demanded the death penalty for Yoon, saying his actions posed a threat to the country's democracy and deserved the most serious punishment available. But most analysts expect a life sentence since the poorly planned power grab did not result in any casualties. I want to remind you, though, that January 6th did result in casualties. The court also convicted and sentenced several former military and police officials involved in enforcing Yoon's martial law decree, including ex-defense minister Kim Yong-hyun, who received a 30-year jail term for his central role in planning the measure and mobilizing the military. Yoon, a staunch conservative, has defended his martial law decree as necessary to stop liberals, whom he described as, quote, anti-state forces from obstructing his agenda with their legislative majority. He isn't going to see the light of day again for doing exactly what Donald Trump did on January 6, 2021. Donald Trump didn't call for martial law, but he incited an insurrection. He told a group of armed citizens that were hopped up on his lies and Fox News and bullshit to go take their country back. They built a gallows on the steps of the Capitol and were chanting and hunting for the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence. On that faithful day, police officers were beaten, people were killed, and people took their lives after the fact. And for the Republican Party and all of their talk and bullshit about back the blue, sold out those officers for Donald Trump. Merrick Garland deserves to be in jail. Honestly, Merrick Garland and Joe Biden sold this country out. Donald Trump should have never been able to get on that chopper and leave the South Lawn. He should have been put in fucking handcuffs for what he had done, what we all watched him do on every screen in this country and around the world. Donald Trump should have never had the opportunity to even announce an attempt to run the presidency again because he should have been in jail. Merrick Garland wanted to talk about preserving institutions, and the only way that you preserve institutions is to exercise the power of those institutions to take down criminals. Not sweep that shit under the rug and hope that nobody notices. America is a failed fucking state. It is a failed fucking country. Because it has never had the courage that the South Koreans just showed, the Brazilians showed, and now other nations around the world that are holding power to account because America has become a cautionary tale. We are a joke. We are an abomination. And the stench of this will be felt, will be smelt for generations to come. Before I get out of here today, I want to continue with the conversations that I've been having on the Danielle Moody Show about the rise of AI. And again, it is all tied to midterm elections. It is all tied to our tax dollars going to fund our replacement. It is all about the fact that on that dais at Donald Trump's inauguration sat all of the technocrats who want no regulation at all on a system that could literally end humanity. And so there is a piece up right now at The Atlantic. The worst case future for white collar workers. The well off have no experience with the job market that might be coming. White collar workers are getting nervous with good reason. Sure, 98% of college graduates who want a job still have one, and wages are ticking up. Sure, some companies that cite the labor saving, efficiency promoting effects of ChatGPT and Claude as they let employees go are just AI washing, talking about algorithms to distract from poor managerial decisions. But the labor market for office workers is beginning to shift. Americans with a bachelor's degree account for a quarter of the unemployed, a record. High school graduates are finding jobs quicker than college graduates, an unprecedented trend. Occupations susceptible to AI automation have seen sharp spikes in joblessness. Businesses really are shrinking payroll and cutting costs as they deploy AI. In recent weeks, Baker McKenzie, a white shoe law firm, axed 700 employees. Salesforce sacked hundreds of workers. And the auditing firm KPMG negotiated lower fees with its own auditor. Two CNBC reporters with no engineering experience vibe coded a clone of Monday.com's workflow management platform in less than an hour. When they released their story, Monday.com's stock tanked. Maybe algorithm driven changes will happen slowly, giving workers plenty of time to adjust. Maybe white collar types have 12 to 18 months left. Maybe the AI related job carnage will be contained to a sliver of the economy. Maybe we should be more worried about a stock market bubble than an AI driven labor revolution. I don't think anyone knows what will happen or even what is happening now. AI technology is changing at an exponential pace and changing the workforce in 1,000 hard to parse ways. But if AI quickly eliminates white collar work, the country is going to end up in something much stranger than a downturn and something much harder to recover from, too. She goes on to write this. The country has struggled with structural joblessness in the past, but the problem has tended to afflict blue collar workers, not white collar ones. The labor market is normally womb like in the security it delivers the college educated. The downsizing trend of the 1990s did not actually result in the pool of office jobs shrinking. Even during the Great Recession, the unemployment rate for workers with a bachelor's degree never went higher than 5.3%. For workers with only an associate's degree or a college credit, it hit 9%. For workers with only a high school diploma, it hit 11.9%. In this new economic paradigm, the educated and well-to-do would fare worse than their less educated and lower income neighbors. The main bulwark against joblessness, the unemployment insurance system, wouldn't meet the challenge. Payments last for only so long, 6 months at most currently, 18 months during the coronavirus pandemic. If AI eliminated the need for office work, many people would be unemployed for years. Their earnings would potentially fall, their mental health would deteriorate, and their chance of finding a new position would diminish with every month that passed. Plus, the unemployment system isn't designed to support six-figure earners. To get the economy going again during the AI transition, the country would need to figure out how to get white-collar workers back to work. And I really mean figure out, essentially from scratch. Existing workforce training initiatives have yielded muted and inconclusive results. Existing displaced worker initiatives have dubious value. These kinds of programs offer net negative value to participants, taxpayers, and society as a whole, studies have found. Community college programs have the strongest track record, but the overwhelming majority of office workers have 2-year or 4-year degrees already. The country doesn't have answers that don't involve upskilling, education, or trying and failing to compensate the losers. I continue to bring this up not to scare people, but to make you aware of what this Epstein cohort and class has in store for a majority of America. And not just America, but the world. AI could be used as a tool to advance the things that we haven't fixed yet. Homelessness, hunger, cancer, right? Stopping disease, creating longevity for life. And not just adding years, but adding life to those years of your life. AI is something that could actually help humanity, aid us, create technologies and that are fighting against climate change. But you would have to have morals and values that are aligned with doing good and not just making more. And what the Epstein cohort, this syndicate, has shown through their emails to each other is that they despise humanity. They despise democracy. They want micronations. They want to rule with absolute impunity. So I don't tell you these things to be like, oh my God, the sky is falling. But it's like, be aware there's a glitch in the sky right now. And it's getting bigger. And the people who are being given carte blanche in our society are absolutely diabolical. They are evil to their core. And they're no longer hiding it. And they're using our tax dollars against us. The only way that you stop a problem, that you stop these people, is to be aware of what they are doing in the first place. And that is my goal here. It's to make you aware of what is happening. It's not to say AI is not useful. It absolutely can be. But the ideology of the people who are accelerating the development of AI are literally moralless. And so where does that leave us? It leaves us fending for ourselves in a hyper-surveilled country where they see cruelty as an opportunity to build their wealth. I close out here today, dear friends, with what I wanted to show you all yesterday on the birthdays of both the late and brilliant Audre Lorde and Toni Morrison. And so I want to share these two quotes as we close out our week here on the Danielle Moody Show. With this, in our work and in our living, we must recognize that difference is a reason for celebration and growth rather than a reason for destruction. Audre Lorde. And then Toni Morrison. Don't let anybody convince you this is the way the world is and therefore must be. It must be the way it ought to be. Friends, we still have power. We still have choice. And it is up to us to use that power and choice to advance a society that we actually want to live in. and not just throw up our hands and allow those that are in power with their depravity and their diabolical thinking to make us believe that their way is inevitable. It is not. It still requires our compliance. Do not comply. That is it for me here today on the Danielle Moody Show. As you know, dear friends, the Danielle Moody Show is live Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern, and I will be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, with my favorite co-pilot, Wajahat Ali, for Democracy-ish. So do make sure to tune in. Check out my recent interview with Kurt Bardella, which is up right now on the Damn Digest. At Substack, where we dive into his thoughts on the midterms and how Democrats use power if, in fact, there is a miracle and they get it back. As you know, my good damnation, this show is people powered. And without all of your help and your generosity, I would not be able to do the work I believe that I am called to do. So I want to shout out the super stickers and super thanks. Ernst, thank you so much for $10. Eternal Energy, as always, for your $4.99 and your playlist, and another $4.99 here. Rebecca, thank you so much for the $20. Margaret, thank you so much for the $9.99. Corey, thank you so much for the $4.99. TM for the $19.99. AR MCC, thank you for the 20 pounds. Black Malcata, thank you for the $20. Ernst again, thank you for the $5. And Jules, thank you for the $5. Friends, all of my content, as you know, is free. So do not think that if you're unable to provide me with dollars or pounds or wherever, whatever currency you use, that you will miss out on any of my content. You will not, but you can make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Even if you've been listening to me forever, make sure that you are subscribed, and make sure to like, comment, and share this show and get it into as many feeds as possible and feed the algorithm. As always, dear friends, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, as Waj and I close out the week with Democracy-ish. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Be well.